Although I haven't had a near-death experience myself, I have been fascinated by this phenomenon since I was in my 40s, and I have started reading many books about near-death experiences. At the age of 52, I wrote and published a book about near-death experiences. Now, 20 years later, it is time to publish a revised edition of it. I want everyone in my family to be interested in near-death experiences and learn something from them. However, people's interests change in various ways depending on the stage of their life. You may not be interested in near-death experiences because you are currently interested in other things. However, as people live long lives, they sometimes face difficulties, sadness, and suffering. At such times, if you listen to what the near-death experiencers say, it can be a great help in overcoming the grief and suffering you face. For times like these, I would like to share what I learned from near-death experiences for my family. Of course, I would like to share this with the hope that it may be useful to all the other people who watch this video someday. The first thing I learned from near-death experiences is that my existence does not disappear with the death of my body. Everyone has a latent fear of death, but if you could be sure that your existence continues even after your physical death, that would greatly alleviate your fear of death. In my case, since learning about near-death experiences, I have come to live with a sense of security that my existence will not disappear even after death. I hope that everyone in my family can live their lives with that same sense of security in their hearts. Near-death experiencers are people who have had a glimpse of the afterlife. So, from their words, we can know something about what we experience after our physical death. Of course, there is also the view that such things are nothing more than hallucinations of confused brain in the face of death. But hundreds of thousands of people have already had near-death experiences, and there are surprising similarities in their reports. One of the reasons I wrote the book on near-death experiences was to demonstrate how unconvincing the scientific theory is, insisting that near-death experiences are hallucinations of the dying brain. I do not intend to introduce all of my demonstration here, but I will briefly introduce one of them. Many people who have near-death experiences significantly change their lives in a positive direction. They grow spiritually and live more positively. Based on this fact alone, near-death experiences cannot be diminished as mere hallucinations. Hallucinations do not have the power to make a person grow spiritually or fundamentally change their way of life. It is important to have a humble attitude to explore the reasons that radically change their way of life, and that is the true scientific attitude. The second thing I learned from near-death experiences was that I was able to see my life from the perspective of life and death. No one knows for sure what will happen to them after they die. That's why you tend to look at your life from a narrow perspective over the short time you are alive. However, if you can look at your life from a broader perspective that includes life and death, Even though you sometimes have worries and suffering, you will not be overwhelmed by them and will be able to see your life from a deeper perspective. I personally started looking at my life from that perspective, and I think it has become much easier to live. I hope everyone will start looking at life from that perspective. I also want you to gain the strength to live positively and not despair even when faced with difficulties. If you don't understand what I am trying to say, consider yourself fooled and listen to the words of several people who have had near-death experiences. Their words are full of truth and persuasive. For example, Anita Majani's video, Dying to Me. After the experience, they all consider their lives from a broader perspective that embraces life and death. I have also introduced countless examples of this in my book. You will see how these near-death experiences helped them grow significantly and fundamentally transform their way of life. The third thing I learned from near-death experiences has to do with life reviews during the experiences. A large number of people have reported their life reviews, and there are several important points. One is that when you relive each scene in your life, you experience not only your own emotions at that time, but also the emotions that your words and actions caused in those around you. For example, if you say something harsh to someone, you experience the hurt feelings of the other person as if you were feeling them. In many cases, the retrospection was accompanied by a radiant, loving being who never condemned or judged even the most egregious deeds. However, because he feels the other person's emotions as if they were his own, he says that when he returns to this world, he has no choice but to change his way of life so that he will never do such a thing again. I've read many examples of life reviews like this, and I've come to think that I don't want to live a life that hurts others as much as possible. I began to think that my actions in this world, various events, and my reactions to them had some kind of meaning in helping me grow. When I think about it from the perspective of death, I now believe that even if I face difficulties and sadness in our lives, there is some kind of hidden meaning behind it that will help us grow. All these experiences are not meaningless. I think there are still many things I've learned through research on near-death experiences, but I would like to stop here for now. Next time I make a video on the theme, I would like to think about the contents based on the reactions and questions of my family and viewers to this video. Lastly, I'd like to tell my family once again. By learning about near-death experiences, I began to see my life from a larger perspective, including life and death. It means that I can now see the various difficulties, sufferings, and sorrows that occur in my life with a little more leeway than before. I made this video because I want everyone to approach life with as much perspective as possible. I sincerely hope that someday this video will be of some use to everyone.